The little girl sat quietly on the cold marble floor, her tiny hands wrapped around her worn backpack as she leaned against the glass doors of the building that carried her father's name. Employees hurried past without looking twice. Some thought she belonged to a visitor. Others assumed security would deal with her. Just a few feet away, her exhausted father, dressed in simple clothes after rushing from the hospital where his daughter had undergone emergency treatment, stood waiting outside his own office because no one believed he was the owner. For nearly an hour, he watched the people he had trusted ignore kindness, ignore humanity, and ignore the very values on which he had built the company. What happened before the sun set would change hundreds of lives forever. Before we continue, if you believe kindness should always come before appearances and that everyone deserves a second chance, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who believes in compassion, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. Every act of support helps us share more inspiring stories that remind the world humanity still matters. Michael Carter had never imagined that success could make him invisible. Years earlier, he had started his technology company in a rented garage with nothing more than an old laptop, endless determination, and the promise he made to his late wife that no matter how large the company became, it would always treat people with dignity. Every employee received generous benefits, every struggling worker was given another opportunity, and every manager attended workshops reminding them that respect was more valuable than profit. Michael believed culture was the true foundation of any business. Money could build offices, but only compassion could build loyalty. Life had tested that promise more than once. 2 years after the company became nationally recognized, Michael lost his wife to a sudden illness. Overnight, he became both father and mother to his 6-year-old daughter, Emily. Every morning began with preparing breakfast, packing lunches, brushing tangled hair, and rushing to school before racing to meetings with investors. Every evening ended with bedtime stories instead of networking events. His executives often wondered why the CEO rarely attended glamorous corporate dinners, but Michael never regretted choosing bedtime hugs over business applause. Emily was the reason he woke up every morning and the reason he worked so hard. One rainy Tuesday, everything changed. Emily collapsed at school because of a severe allergic reaction. Michael abandoned an important conference, raced through traffic, and spent hours beside her hospital bed while doctors stabilized her condition. By evening, she was finally well enough to leave, but Michael had missed a critical board review scheduled at headquarters. He picked Emily up in his arms, carried her to the car, and decided to stop by the office only long enough to sign urgent documents before taking her home. Still wearing the plain sweatshirt he had grabbed in panic that morning and without his usual tailored suit, Michael looked nothing like the billionaire whose photograph decorated the company's annual reports. His expensive watch had been left at home, his hair was soaked from the rain, and exhaustion covered every inch of his face. Emily held tightly onto his hand as they entered the lobby, hoping they could go home soon. The receptionist barely glanced up before asking for identification. Michael smiled politely and explained that he had forgotten his wallet during the emergency. He asked her to call the executive floor because several people would immediately recognize his voice. Instead of helping, she sighed impatiently and pointed toward the waiting area, explaining that company policy prohibited unauthorized visitors from entering. Michael understood policies better than anyone. He had personally approved many of them. So he quietly thanked her and sat beside Emily without making a scene. Minutes slowly became an hour. Employees walked by carrying expensive coffee cups and discussing quarterly profits while the company's founder remained unnoticed. Some stared at Emily's hospital wristband but continued walking. Others whispered that security should remove the pair before important clients arrived. What hurt Michael most was not being denied entry. It was watching people forget simple humanity. No one asked whether the tired child needed water. No one offered a chair closer to the heater. No one wondered why a father looked completely defeated while comforting his daughter. The company had grown wealthy, but somewhere along the journey, many hearts had grown poor. Emily eventually rested her head on her father's shoulder and drifted asleep. Michael wrapped his jacket around her to keep her warm. Looking across the enormous lobby, he remembered the day construction workers finished the building. He had personally greeted every cleaner, electrician, and painter, thanking them for helping create a place where people would feel valued. Standing there now, he barely recognized the spirit that had once filled those walls. As darkness settled outside, a janitor pushing an old cleaning cart quietly approached them. Unlike everyone else, the elderly man immediately noticed Emily's pale face and Michael's tired eyes. Without asking questions, he disappeared for a few moments before returning with 2 bottles of water, a warm blanket from the medical room, and a small package of crackers. He apologized because it was all he could find after the cafeteria had closed. Michael accepted the gesture with grateful eyes. The janitor earned very little compared with the executives upstairs, yet he displayed more compassion than anyone else in the building that evening. The old man admitted that he had often seen the CEO's framed photographs in company newsletters but had never met him in person. Looking carefully, he suddenly realized the exhausted father sitting before him was the very man whose values had inspired him to keep working long after retirement age. Shock filled his face, but Michael gently asked him to remain calm and say nothing. Instead, Michael simply wanted to observe how the organization behaved when no one believed the owner was watching. The next 30 minutes revealed painful truths. A senior manager walked through the lobby, noticed the sleeping child, frowned with irritation, and instructed security to ensure no visitors remained after closing time. Another executive stepped around Emily's backpack as though it were an inconvenience instead of a little girl's only possession that day. Meanwhile, the janitor quietly stayed nearby, pretending to polish windows while making sure father and daughter were safe. For the first time since building the company from nothing, Michael realized that policies could be copied, slogans could be printed, and speeches could be applauded. But character revealed itself only when no one expected recognition. The company had become efficient, profitable, and admired by investors. Yet somewhere deep inside its polished walls, kindness had slowly been replaced by pride. Michael looked down at Emily sleeping peacefully in his arms and silently made a decision that would send shockwaves through every floor of the building the following morning.